How about your clapping and your reaction to the presentation on his examples on how the United Nations is integrating asset management into their activities and how this contributes to climate action. Now we have 15 minutes for some questioning. We can use that for these communications that you have just heard or for the ones in the earlier morning. So I invite Maja to come with me. No, maybe we sit over there. Yeah, and also Aleksandar. All of the other participants were either online in the morning, but I think none of them from the early morning is available now. But we have Pascale online, hopefully yet. Yes. Can we please confirm if Pascale?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Pascale.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. So, as the chair of this particular session, I ask if any of you has any question to Pascale specifically that you would like her to address, or to Aleksandar. Any one of you, please. I see so many raised hands. I don't know which one I should call first. But maybe I can ask Pascale one question and then have it back into the audience. So Pascale mentioned in one of her slides that they are testing the effects of having 1% rehabilitation. Is that right, Pascale? I think I saw that somewhere. 1% means that every asset will be rehabilitated once in 100 years. Is that enough? I mean, if I ask all of you, what is the percentage of rehabilitation that you have in your systems? What answer would you give me? What is the percentage from your side? Those of you with the water utilities? Do you have an idea? No one has an idea? That's a blank in the map. So no data on that? I would say it's less, right? 0? Someone said 0?
Thank you. In our case, it's less than 1%. Even we had a strategy to renew 2% of total length of Belgrade network. It will be, you know, good example. But for sure, as I mentioned earlier, all of our utilities in the region invest a small percentage and rehabilitate a small percentage of the network, and that should be our focus, to force that and to think about future, because these elements, these assets are underground and nobody cares unless this is not important for some high-level institution. But we should all be aware and should put more investments, more money in rehabilitation. Pascale, your presentation was excellent. Thank you. This is something that maybe I would like to use this opportunity to ask you for your experience and, for example, how you see your recordings from CCTV camera, how you using these recordings and how you cooperate it with and make reports.
Thank you very much for your question. Yes, the way we are working, we usually don't use the CCTV information directly. We are working with the conditions. So usually some companies or the water companies, they are doing that directly. And of course, the issue that they have is that they need a lot of time until they have translated all of these defects into a condition. So most of the time they have done some CCTV inspections, but they need, there's I don't know, sometimes 2 years until you have the translation of this inspection into a condition. So that's really an issue. And the way we are working now in Berlin, or there are some new initiatives in that topic, that we are trying to do an automatic inspection. And so really to identify the defects automatically. So with some machine learning models. So it's difficult, of course, but there are some good results on that topic. Of course, it's an issue, and we know that we have some uncertainties linked to this evaluation, because it depends of date, depends of the person who is going to do this evaluation. We do all of that, but there is no better evaluation than that. So, so we have to rely on this information, and we can say if this evaluation is well done, you really can rely on that. I would like to come back to this 1%. I think it's really interesting. In Berlin, that's the way they are working now. So we all know it's not in ours. For some pipes, of course, if you take a pipe, a plastic pipe, for example, it won't last 100 years. But if you have a brick pipe, it will last longer than 100 years. So it's, I think it's not so bad. I've been talking with some mayors of cities, and they told me they haven't done any rehabilitation during the last 70 years in their cities, and they were really shocked about that, because they were new in this function, and so that's why they were really happy to discover that they can use this kind of tools as we have proposed and what I presented before, because now they really have to act, and they really have to select the actions that are really prioritaire, and that's why they are really happy to have this kind of support and help to go on. But we know it's an issue in many cities.
Thank you, Pascale. I would like to ask you another question if no one from the audience is willing to. Okay, we have a question over there. Can you please say your name first?
Sure,
so
I will.
Everyone, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so first, thank you all panelists and all presenters and moderators for the first two sessions. My name is Georgi Hristov. I work for GIZ Open Regional Fund for Modernization of Municipal Services. And later on, after the lunch, we'll have opportunity to moderate the session, so introduce myself better to the participants. I have a particular question for Mr. Aleksandar Djukić. In your presentation, you tackled the issues about the climate change, its impact over the assets, and vice versa, the assets impact over the climate change. But at one slide, you mentioned that water utility companies, they do not need to address climate change or develop climate change strategies, but rather to provide data for the policy decision makers to use those data and set up the strategies, right? Can you and I think it's very useful for participants here who are coming from the water utility companies, and at least in the region we are listening that utility companies are doing strategy for everything and all different aspects of their operation, and one among these being also the climate change. So can you bit more elaborate on this need or no need to avoid the water utilities should focus also on climate change strategy development or not? Thank you.
Okay, I think now it works. Thank you for a very interesting question. Because of the limited time, I could not elaborate on this. And I discussed with Mr. Šotić, who is more deeply involved in that, and he used to work in Belgrade Waterworks. I think it is important to stress that waterworks are operators. They should not, they can do some research, they can do, but it is not their primary job. And okay, they're not all the waterworks are capable of doing such a things. For example, here in Serbia, we have 155 waterworks, which is a ridiculously high number. Even every municipality has a waterworks. Belgrade Waterworks is nice and strong company with thousands of employees. But there are a lot of small waterworks without technical human and expertise and other capacities to convey even everyday job. And put them burden to tackle climate change, I think it will be really not reasonable. That is up to government to according to the scientific facts and research results, come to the conclusion how to tackle that and then to harmonize it on the international level and to implement it on other levels. Water companies should report how they respond to that, how they optimize resources, how they optimize energy consumption, how they tackle the demand management, but they should not prepare strategy on their own.
Thank you. You're okay with the answer? Okay. Any other question? Let me ask you something, Aleksandar. When you say that we have less room for mitigation actions, and you mentioned a few that we can do on the infrastructure itself, mainly on reducing energy consumption,
Yes.
right? Do you think that we have an opportunity to also have mitigation actions when we think about the fleet? I mean, the cars, the vehicles that we are using in our utilities. Having people working from home, is there an opportunity for us to reduce also some costs with energy or not? Does this make any difference? Did we learn something from the pandemics on this that we can use? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think it depends on the carbon footprint and other footprints, water footprint, the nitrogen footprint. And if we are talking about carbon footprint, which is the most important parameter to consider about the mitigation measures, then each utility should see how to address and what will be the most efficient way to deal with that. I think it is not rational, probably it's not possible for water utilities to become net zero, because, for example, Belgrade, each drop of water should take from the lowest level, from the groundwater or from the river, and pump it up to the higher supply zones. So anyhow, energy should be used. On one side, the energy production is solved on the state level, how it will be, what will be the percentage of renewable sources and fossil fuels. But the water company should focus on their carbon footprint and see how most efficiently they can reduce it. Of course, using cars can reduce it, but there is always an associated cost with that. Working from home probably is the key for some, I would say, development and some activities at utilities that rely mainly on computers, networking, etc. But majority and a lot of work in utilities relates to the field job and they need the physical contact. So it is not possible that all workers at water companies can work at home. But there's various strategies, so that should be explored, but it should be based on facts, not just copying what is done somewhere to see, okay, this seems nice, let's implement it, but let's start with the evaluation. What is the carbon footprint? What is the water footprint, and to see how to optimize it.
Yeah. For instance, in Portugal, many of our utilities are starting to have solar panels in their facilities because we have lots of sun the year round. So it's a way to try to reduce energy consumption from the grid. And it's not part of the operation. So it's something that we're doing in our offices, in our buildings. Don't ask me what is the result, if the result is being positive or not, but it's being kind of promoted for utilities to do that. I don't know if that's the reality here. Probably you don't have as many hours of sun as
I think
we have
it is
in Portugal.
recently it is introduced through legislation that even every personal home can be electricity producer, but it is only introduced recently, and it will require some time and some incentives to become, I think, significant. But that is one possibility, but our climate is slightly different than in Portugal.
We have a question. Can you please identify yourself, please?
My name is Miroslav Cvjetković, and I have a lot of experience around, but I will speak about experience in Serbia only. Speaking about sun energy, can you imagine what will be the decrease of carbon footprint if the old sludge in a wastewater treatment plant will be dried by sun energy, which is possible. And if asset management have to be those young people trying to do it from bottom to up, your question is how to convince politicians that the asset management is useful. I think it is have to be upside down. The policy have to convince waterworks to implement these strategies, this policy, because this is good for society, not for the company. But here in Serbia, we have no water-related regulator. Mm-hmm. We have no professional management in waterworks. We have some attempt to change this policy, but you know, it is not possible. So the footprint, carbon footprint can be reduced, but as a policy introduced from above. We are in the eve of development of network of wastewater treatment plants in Serbia. And my experience with the money which we got in Serbia as a grant or as a credit in previous time was always followed by the measures which force the utilities to increase the level of efficiency in everything else. Mm-hmm. But going in the future, I think that our next partner, let's be honest, Chinese, won't insist on that at all. So this is, in fact, my attempt to encourage those young people, because there is not young lack of years. They are young because they are trying to sharp some tools which will be used hopefully in the future. I don't know whether it's a question or just a statement.
I don't know if
Thank you.
Any of you wants to reply.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ndricim, Shani, chair of the regulatory authority in Albania. I think this, I will make a kind of comments, not questions in this case, because I see the management of the assets as a very complex issue. It is not saying that just to replace the existing one by amortization or extension, but they are linked with different things that they are put in evidence even today. One aspect is that asset management also is linked with the energy efficiency. That is what mentioned. And unfortunately, Serbia don't have a regulatory that can play a role on that. But here in Albania, we, in a certain way, not straightforward forcing the utilities to have let's say, a management efficiency of the energy plan for the utility, which considers different aspects, from replacing by the pumps with higher efficiency, or let's say hours of working pumps not in the peak, mm-hmm. or reseeing a little bit, let's say, the hydraulic model in order to reduce the losses, and which is reduction of the energy, and other aspects on the different things. So, and this is very, very evident today with the energetic crisis, which is make a real priority today. So this is my small comments, just to put in evidence the importance and the complexity of this asset management, let's say, aspects in waterworks utilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other question? If I can use the 2 minutes I might have, I'm going to ask Pascale something that I would really like to know. I don't know if you also had the same problem as I have. It's about inspection. So you mentioned inspection using robots for doing the work that we cannot do in small pipes because we cannot go into the small pipes. And I think you mentioned that they were below 400 millimeters. Is that it? Something like that. So small pipes, something like this, right? And I have a problem with very, very large pipes that have 8 meters high, 17 or 20 meters wide. So very, very large pipes. And when I go and make an inspection in one of those, I look like an alien or an astronaut or something, because I have a mask, I have an helmet, I have my boots, I have my whatever. And on top of that, I use glasses. And then they want me to spot a fissure on the other side of the pipe. And then I have to report so that we can build a condition assessment on that pipe. And so a couple of days ago, I heard that drones are starting to be used inside these very big pipes to help us with what we cannot see. I don't know if any of you has heard about this, using drones inside sewers and very, very large pipes. Any experience on that? No. What about you, Pascale? Do you have something to teach me, to let me know that I have a hope that someday I'll be able to make a very good inspection in very large pipes?
I would like to, but I haven't done this experience. We also wanted to work on the topic. Obviously, it's only for very big pipes, because if you have a very small one, and I think that more than 50% of the pipes are less than 50 centimeters. So you are really talking about these really big ones. And also for the pipes from 1 meter, I think it's okay to use some drones. And I'm very curious to know about that, and I'm convinced that's the solution now.
Okay, let's hope that someone else during the day talks about this topic, and then I'll ask him again. Okay, thank you so much.